On the vlog the other day, I told the story about how I blew off a meeting with Gary Vee. And today, luckily, I'm here to tell you the story about the day I met him. If you haven't watched the video about how I blew off the meeting with Gary Vee, I'll link it right up here so you can watch that. This story actually starts the next morning from the previous crazy day where I blew off the meeting. This time around, I wasn't gonna leave anything to chance. So instead of getting a cab or an Uber or something like that, the wife and kids, we actually walked. We walked to Hudson Yards, and from our hotel is about a half hour. I wanna say it was about a half hour, almost 40 minutes, but I just, in my head, I was paranoid at that point. Like, oh my gosh, I already blew off the meeting. We have to get there, we have to be there. And I didn't want to get stuck in traffic or something like that. So we decided to walk. We all got ready and the kiddos were pretty excited. Girls, where are we heading right now?
To meet Gary Vee. To meet Gary Vee.
To meet Gary Vee. I messed up, but we're gonna get to meet him today. Luckily, it was a nice sunny day. It was a nice 40 degrees outside, but with the sun, it wasn't too terrible. And we made our way down to Hudson Yards, which is where Gary Vee, Vayner Media is located. We actually got in a little early, so we got our badges and all that stuff, and then we went in the mall there and got some coffee, and just like, it was kind of a whirlwind morning. It was like we hurried, had some coffee, and like there's just all these thoughts running through my head at that point. I really had no idea what to expect at this point. It was always a dream of mine to like have a purpose, have a reason to have a meeting in a high rise in New York, like from watching movies and all kinds of things. For me, it was like a little extra added bonus because I'm like, wow, I get to actually go up to the front desk and they know my name. They're, oh, we're expecting you. We finally got off on their floor, and I just remember as soon as we went through the glass doors and you see the big Vayner X plastered behind the front desk, it's like, it became real at that point. It was so cool you've seen it a billion times. You've seen that whole building in all of Gary's daily V's and things like that, and it was a very surreal moment to be in that area. Right out of the gate, I was very impressed with his staff. Like, Katie met us and she was our guide through this whole thing. She was amazing. She was absolutely incredible. We had a stroller, I had my big camera bag, we had all these different things, and she just, oh yeah, let's put it in this closet. We got comfortable. We got ready to like just be there. We didn't have to lug things around and try to get a stroller through the offices or anything like that. They were just laid back and, oh yeah, we'll just put it here and no big deal and just wait here and we'll get the tour started. First thing we did is Katie came out and got us, introduced herself, and then, mingled with the kids a little bit. And she said, well, I think, Gary has some time. He's kind of in a meeting right now, but he's got some time for you. He was mid-meeting as we were rounding the corner, we're walking through the offices, and it was exactly what I expected in some regards. Like, I did not expect like corporate. Even though you're in this like beautiful corporate office building in Manhattan, it still was like organized chaos everywhere. A stack of books that need to be signed over here, giant Macho Man autograph over here, just different things scattered throughout like you would expect. The back shelf, the famous back shelf in Gary's office or whatever, like imagine that, but throughout the entire office. We get to the end of the hall, I see the glass, I see the office, I see the iconic office. At this point, Gary actually had like 3 or 4 people in his office. It was like his assistant, actually a couple assistants, and then one guy with a camera. It was definitely not D-Rock. I would have geeked out over that a little bit. Not many people can have this trait and do it correctly. And Gary's one that definitely does it correctly. Katie knocked on his door, said, hey, Gary, do you have a minute? The Vlasiches are here. And he literally stopped what he was doing, turned around, we came in, and you felt like you were the only important person in that entire place. He wasn't like half listening to you while doing something else or on his phone or anything. Like, he was engaged. And one thing I always look for with people is how they react to children and how they treat children, how they talk to children. One thing I think is always cool is when somebody bends over a little bit to be on the child's level. And that's kind of what Gary did. He bent down a little bit and how are you? And engaged with the kids right away. I then went up up, shook his hand and said, well, a deal's a deal, right? As I'm shaking his hand, I'm apologizing. I'm like, Gary, I am so incredibly sorry we missed the meeting yesterday. And his response was so cool. He just goes, hey, things happen. You're here now, live in the present. Now, at this point, I'd actually left like my big camera. I had my big camera with me, but I left it in my camera bag and stuff. I don't know, it was my first time there and everything else. I didn't want to just show up with a camera in his face or anything like that. And I wanted to actually enjoy the encounter. I didn't want it to be like so worried about the camera and angles and stuff like that. Plus we had our kids and just, I couldn't do it. I couldn't vlog. As much as I wanted to, I decided to not film any of it. We all just kind of chatted for a while. He asked us about our trip and what we're doing and what we've seen, what we're going to see and all these kinds of things, and gave us a couple recommendations. And then it was funny because this is shortly after the Super Bowl and Vayner just did, I think, 3 Super Bowl commercials. One of them, which Gary was pushing on Twitter a lot, which was Baby Nut for planners. And it was funny as I showed Jovi, my oldest daughter, I showed her this Baby Nut commercial and told her like, hey, this is where it was made. Gary Vee and his team concepted this thing. Towards the end of the conversation and everything, he asked them, he goes, oh, you watched the Super Bowl? And they said, yeah, we watched it with our dad. And of course, he couldn't help himself. He had to ask, he goes, what was your favorite commercial? And Jovi goes, oh, Baby Nut. I loved Baby Nut. And he gave her a big high five and the whole crew around him was laughing. He's like, oh, right answer, right answer. And yeah, then he goes, hey, let's make sure we grab a picture. So his crew obviously takes pictures for him all the time. So gave him my phone, snapped a picture with them with the whole family. And yeah, it was just, it was very quick. He's a busy guy. So I respected the fact that he even gave me a second chance at the meeting, but it was just cool to see the authenticity. It was cool to kind of pull back the curtain and not see something I didn't want to see. It was like you pull back the curtain and it's exactly what you see online. Gary is not a character. Gary is himself all the time. And when we were talking to him in person, it was like, just like you listen to him on Tea with Gary Vee or anything else, like he was just himself. There was no surprises. There was no like arrogance or anything like that. How dare you blow off a meeting with me or anything like that. I've been very blessed to meet a lot of my heroes, whether it be in music or business or whatever. And it's just always refreshing when there's somebody that you follow or look up to and they turn out to be the person that they are in your head. After our meeting with Gary, we said our goodbyes and Katie actually gave us a tour of the offices. And I gotta say, I was completely blown away at how, number one, how big it is. I didn't realize how many people actually worked there. And number two, what was cool about the staff and everybody there, I don't know if they train their people this way or what, but it was like, as you're walking through, people know you're getting a tour and they acknowledge you. Like they're not like, oh geez, another person to see Gary, another fan of Gary's, it wasn't that kind of thing. As we were on the tour, the girls were actually thirsty and she took us to the gorgeous break room they have. It's really cool. And she's like, what do you want? Juice boxes, chocolate milk, we got it all. And all of a sudden these drinks appeared, coffee appeared. We had it was just, it was cool to mingle with other people in there. And then just seeing everything, seeing the scale that it's like, oh yeah, this department is just analytics. This department does this. Just seeing it at scale was incredible. It was a cool experience, definitely, and just one I'll never forget. That day was definitely, I was so glad I could share it with the family. I was so glad the kids could go and see it and experience all that too. And it was just, that for me made it that much more special. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow.